Mickle wiped down the counter of his small-town diner, watching the early morning sun paint Main Street in shades of gold. The breakfast rush had been steady. Farmers, truckers, and the usual regulars who'd been coming to Morrison's diner since his father ran the place 30 years ago. Now it was Jake's turn, a single father of two trying to keep his family legacy alive in Cedar Falls, Montana, population 2,847. The bell above the door chimed, and Jake looked up to see his daughter Emma burst through, her backpack bouncing. "Dad, I forgot my lunch money again," the 8-year-old announced dramatically. Jake sighed and reached into his apron pocket. "Emma, that's the third time this week." "I know, I'm sorry." She flashed him that gap-toothed smile that always melted his resolve. "Love you, bye." She grabbed the bills and was gone before he could lecture her about responsibility. "She's got you wrapped around her little finger," called out Tom Jenkins from his usual corner booth. "Tell me something I don't know," Jake replied with a grin. "More coffee, Tom?" "Always." Jake was refilling Tom's cup when the bell chimed again. He glanced up and saw her, the new waitress he'd hired 3 weeks ago. Kira Chen moved through the door with that same nervous energy she'd had since day one. She was in her mid-20s, pretty in an unusual way, with features that seemed just slightly off in a manner Jake could never quite pinpoint. Her skin had an almost luminous quality, her eyes were in striking shade of violet blue, and she moved with a grace that seemed too precise, too controlled. But she was a hard worker, always on time, and desperately needed the job. That was enough for Jake. "Morning, Kira," he called out. "Good morning, Mr. Morrison," she replied, her voice carrying that same faint accent he couldn't place. She hurried to the back to get her apron. Jake noticed her hands were shaking as she tied the strings. "You okay?" he asked, walking over. Kira jumped slightly, then nodded too quickly. "Yes, I am fine, just tired, did not sleep well." It was the same excuse she'd given a dozen times before. Jake studied her carefully. The dark circles under her eyes, the way she constantly glanced at the windows as if expecting something, the nervous energy that never quite left her. "Kira," he said gently, "if something's wrong, you can tell me. If someone's bothering you or if you're in some kind of trouble." "No trouble," she interrupted quickly. "I am fine, really." She forced a smile that didn't reach her eyes. "I should start preparing for lunch rush, yes." Before Jake could respond, she disappeared into the kitchen. Tom caught Jake's eye and shrugged. "That girl's running from something." "I know," Jake muttered. "I just wish she'd trust me enough to tell me what." The morning passed normally enough. Kira served customers with her usual efficiency, though Jake noticed she seemed more jumpy than usual, flinching every time the door opened, her eyes constantly scanning the street outside. Around 11, things got stranger. A black SUV with tinted windows pulled up across the street and parked. It just sat there, engine idling. Kira saw it through the window and went completely pale, her hands gripping the coffee pot so tightly Jake thought she might break it. "Kira," he said, concerned. She set down the pot with shaking hands. I need to use the restroom, excuse me." She practically ran to the back. Jake watched the SUV for a moment, then made a decision. He told his cook to watch the front and went to the restroom hallway, knocking gently on the door. "Kira." "That vehicle out there, do you know who that is?" Silence. Then quietly, "Yes." "Are they looking for you?" Another pause. "Yes." "Are you in danger?" He heard her take a shaky breath. I do not know any more. I thought I was safe here. I thought I had more time." Jake's protective instincts flared. Kira, open the door, please, let me help you. You cannot help me, Mr. Morrison, you do not understand what I am. Then help me understand. Long silence. Then the lock clicked and the door opened slowly. Kira stood there, tears streaming down her face. If I tell you the truth, you will be afraid of me. You will make me leave, and I have nowhere else to go. Jake kept his voice calm and steady. I'm not going to make you leave, and I'm not easy to scare. Talk to me. Kira looked at him with those unusual violet blue eyes searching his face for something. Whatever she found there made her shoulders slump in resignation. Come with me, she said quietly. To your office, what I need to show you. Others should not see. Jake led her to his small office at the back of the diner and closed the door. Kira stood in the middle of the room, wringing her hands nervously. I am not from here, she began. Not from Cedar Falls, not from Montana, not from Earth. Jake blinked. What? I am from a planet called Vera in a star system you would not recognize. I came to Earth 6 months ago as part of a research expedition. She took a shaky breath. But something went wrong. My team. They are not who I thought they were. Kira, I don't. She held up a hand. Please, let me show you. Then you can decide if you believe me or think I am insane. Before Jake could respond, Kira closed her eyes and took a deep breath. Her skin began to change, the luminous quality intensifying. Her violet blue eyes started to glow softly, and her hair, which had been dark brown, shifted to a silvery white color that seemed to shimmer in the dim office light. Jesus Christ, Jake breathed, stumbling back against his desk. This is my true appearance, Kira said, her voice thick with emotion. I have been using a biosynthetic overlay to appear more human. It takes constant concentration and energy, and I am so tired of hiding. Jake stared at her, his mind reeling. The logical part of his brain insisted this was impossible. The evidence of his eyes said otherwise. Those people in the SUV, he managed. Who are they? Kira's expression turned bitter. My former team. They were supposed to be scientists, researchers studying Earth culture and biology, but I discovered they were actually planning something terrible. They were cataloging Earth's resources and weaknesses for a potential invasion force. An invasion, Jake repeated numbly. I tried to stop them, to warn someone, but they have powerful allies. I managed to escape and have been hiding ever since, moving from town to town, trying to stay ahead of them. She looked down at her shimmering hands. I chose this small town because I thought they would never look here. I was wrong. Jake's mind was racing, trying to process everything. An alien, a real alien working in his diner, being hunted by other aliens who wanted to invade Earth. It sounded insane. It looked impossible, but looking at Kira, her silvery hair, her glowing eyes, her skin that seemed to shimmer with inner light, he knew it was real. Why didn't you go to the government? He asked. The military. Someone who could actually do something. Because I do not know who to trust, Kira said desperately. My people have been infiltrating Earth for months. They could be anywhere, anyone, and if I go to authorities and they do not believe me, my team will find me before I can convince anyone of the truth. She moved closer to him, her eyes pleading. I am sorry, Mr. Morrison. I should not have involved you. I will leave now before they connect you to me. Thank you for your kindness these past weeks. It meant more than you know. She turned toward the door, but Jake caught her arm. Wait! Kira looked back at him, surprised. Jake took a deep breath. He thought about his kids, about Emma and his 10-year-old son Tyler, about the world they were growing up in. He thought about his responsibility to them to keep them safe. He also thought about the frightened young woman, alien woman, standing in his office, alone and hunted, with nowhere to go and no one to trust. "I'm not letting you walk out that door to face those people alone," he said firmly. "Mr. Morrison, Jake, if we're dealing with alien invasions, we're past formalities." He released her arm and ran a hand through his hair. "Look, I don't fully understand what's happening here. Half of me still thinks I'm having some kind of breakdown, but I believe you're in danger and I believe you're trying to do the right thing. You would help me." Kira's voice was barely a whisper. "Even knowing what I am." "You're someone who needs help," Jake said. "That's all that matters." He moved to the window and carefully peered out at the SUV. "Do they know you're here?" "I do not think so, not yet, but they are searching systematically, checking every small town in the region. It is only a matter of time." Jake's mind shifted into problem-solving mode, the same focus he used when managing the diner, raising two kids alone, juggling bills and schedules and crises. "Okay. First thing, you're coming home with me after my shift. My house is outside town, more isolated, harder to watch. I cannot put you and your children in danger. My kids are at school until 3, then they go to my sister's until I pick them up at 6. That gives us time to figure out a plan." He looked at her seriously. "Do your people have any weaknesses, anything we can use?" Kira thought for a moment. "They rely heavily on technology. Their biosynthetic overlays can be disrupted by certain electromagnetic frequencies. And they underestimate humans. They think you are primitive, easy to manipulate." "Then we use that," Jake said. "They're not expecting a small-town diner owner to fight back. That's our advantage." A small, hopeful smile touched Kira's lips, the first genuine smile he'd seen from her. "You remind me of my father. He was always helping others, always standing up for what was right, even when it was dangerous." Her smile faded. "He died trying to stop my team's original mission. They made it look like an accident. That is when I knew I had to escape, had to warn Earth somehow." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. "I'm sorry, I can't imagine how hard this has been for you." "I have been so alone," Kira whispered, her eyes glistening with tears. "So afraid. Every day wondering if this is the day they find me. Every person I meet wondering if they are one of my people in disguise. And I cannot even show my true self, cannot relax for even a moment." The strain in her voice broke something in Jake's heart. He stepped forward and without thinking pulled her into a hug. Kira stiffened in surprise, then slowly relaxed, her arms coming up to return the embrace. She was trembling, and Jake could feel wetness on his shoulder as she finally let herself cry. "You're not alone anymore," he said quietly. "I've got you. We'll figure this out." They stood there for a long moment, human and alien, two people from different worlds connected by simple compassion. Then Kira pulled back, wiping her eyes. Her appearance shifted, the shimmer fading, her hair darkening back to brown, her eyes returning to their violet blue but no longer glowing. Her human disguise was back in place. "We should return to work," she said, her voice stronger now. "We do not want to draw suspicion." "Right." Jake opened the door and checked the hallway. "Act normal. We'll talk more at my place tonight." They returned to the diner. The black SUV was still there, and Jake saw two figures sitting in the front seats. From this distance, they looked completely human, but knowing what he knew now, it sent a chill down his spine. The lunch rush came and went. Kira served customers with her usual efficiency, though Jake noticed she avoided going near the windows. The SUV remained parked across the street, watching, waiting. At 2 o'clock, Tom Jenkins called out to Jake. Hey, those folks in that SUV have been there for hours. Should I call the sheriff? No, Kira said quickly, too quickly. Everyone in the diner turned to look at her. She forced a smile. I mean, they are probably just lost, checking their phone for directions. No need to bother Sheriff Williams. Tom looked skeptical but shrugged. If you say so. At 3, the SUV finally pulled away. Kira visibly relaxed, but Jake knew it was temporary. They'd be back. When Jake's shift ended at 5, Kira followed him to his truck, keeping her head down. They drove in silence for a while, heading toward Jake's house on the outskirts of town. I cannot believe you are doing this, Kira said finally. Risking yourself for someone you barely know. I know enough, Jake replied. You're a good person trying to stop something terrible. That's all I need to know. Your children will be fine. They stay at my sister's on Thursdays anyway. She's got a sleepover planned with her kids. They won't even notice I'm dealing with. He paused. Alien invasion plans. Kira laughed despite herself. When you say it like that, it sounds absurd. It is absurd, Jake agreed. But it's also real, so we deal with it. At his house, they sat at the kitchen table. Kira, looking exhausted from maintaining her disguise all day, let it slip away again. Jake watched the transformation with fascination. It is easier to think without the overlay, she explained. But I cannot risk neighbors seeing. Understood. Jake pulled out a notepad. Okay, let's figure this out. You said electromagnetic frequencies can disrupt their disguises. Yes, specific frequencies. I can build a device, but I would need components. Radio Shack in Billings. Perhaps. But more importantly, I need to find a way to contact my government, my real government. They need to know what is happening here. If I could get a message to them. How do you send an interstellar message? Kira bit her lip. There is a communications hub, hidden in the mountains about 200 miles from here. My team uses it to send reports back home. If I could access it, I could send my own message, warn my people about what the team is really doing. And they'd come stop the invasion. Yes, my people are not conquerors. When they learn that this team has been planning an unauthorized invasion, they will send forces to stop it and recall everyone involved. Jake leaned back in his chair. So we need to get you to this communications hub, send your message, and hope your people get here before your team finds you. Essentially, yes. That's a terrible plan. I know. But it's the only plan we've got. I know that, too. Jake looked at this alien woman sitting in his kitchen, her silvery hair shimmering in the late afternoon light, and realized how much his life had changed in just a few hours. This morning, his biggest concern had been whether he'd ordered enough eggs for the weekend rush. Now he was planning to help an alien stop an invasion of Earth. All right, he said, standing up. Tomorrow's Friday. I'll call my sister, tell her I need her to watch the kids for the weekend. We'll tell everyone I'm taking a short trip to visit an old friend. We leave Saturday morning, get to your communications hub, send your message, and get back before anyone knows we're gone. It is not that simple. Nothing ever is, Jake interrupted. But we're doing this together. Kira stood and moved around the table. She took his hands in hers, her skin cool and smooth. Why are you doing this, Jake? Really? Jake thought about it. Because 20 years ago, I was in a bad place. Drinking too much, heading nowhere. A stranger gave me a job at his diner, gave me a chance when no one else would. That stranger was my wife's father. He saved my life. He squeezed her hands gently. Maybe it's my turn to be that stranger for someone else. Tears formed in Kira's glowing eyes. Your wife, she is not here. Car accident 3 years ago. It's just me and the kids now. I am sorry. Me too. But it taught me something. Life's too short to sit on the sidelines when someone needs help, even if that someone is from another planet. Kira smiled through her tears. You are a remarkable human, Jake Morrison. Nah, just a guy trying to do the right thing. He released her hands. Now let's figure out exactly what we're up against. They spent the next hour planning. Kira drew maps, explained the security at the communications hub, described the capabilities of her former team. It was overwhelming, but Jake refused to be intimidated. At 6, he had to leave to pick up his kids. Will you be okay here alone? He asked. Yes, I will keep the lights off, stay away from windows. Good, I'll be back in an hour with dinner. You like Chinese food? I do not know, I have never tried it. Jake grinned. Then you're in for a treat. When he returned with Emma, Tyler, and enough Chinese takeout to feed a small army, he found Kira in her human disguise, looking nervous again. Kids, he said, this is Kira. She works at the diner. She's staying with us tonight. Her apartment has a gas leak and they're fixing it. Hi, Emma said cheerfully. I'm Emma and I'm 8 and that's Tyler and he's 10 but he acts like he's 6. I do not, Tyler protested. Kira smiled, and this time it was genuine and warm. It is very nice to meet you both. Over dinner, Jake watched Kira interact with his children. She was gentle with Emma, patient with Tyler's endless questions, and clearly delighted by the Chinese food. For a few hours, it almost felt normal, like he just invited a friend over for dinner. Later, after the kids were in bed, Jake and Kira sat on the porch in the darkness. They are wonderful, Kira said softly. Your children, you have raised them well. Thanks, it's been hard doing it alone, but they're good kids. They are lucky to have you. She paused. Jake, if something happens this weekend, nothing's going to happen. But if it does, she insisted, I want you to know, meeting you, being here, feeling safe even for a little while. It has meant everything to me. Thank you for giving me hope when I had lost it all. Jake looked at her, at the woman beneath the alien exterior, brave, lonely, fighting for what was right despite impossible odds. We're going to stop them, he said firmly. We're going to get your message sent and your people are going to come. And then maybe, he trailed off. Maybe what? Maybe you don't have to keep running. Maybe you can stay. Cedar Falls could use someone like you. Kira's eyes widened. You would want that even knowing what I am. Especially knowing what you are, Jake said. You're brave, you're kind, you work hard, and you care about doing the right thing. That's what matters. The rest is just details. Kira laughed, a sound of pure joy. Just details. An entire alien species, different biology, different world, just details. Exactly, Jake said with a grin. They sat in comfortable silence, looking up at the stars. Somewhere up there was Kira's home, her family, her world. And somewhere down here was Jake's, his kids, his diner, his small Montana town. Two different worlds about to collide. But sitting here on this porch, human and alien side by side, Jake felt something he hadn't felt in 3 years. Hope. Saturday morning, he said. We take back the future. Saturday morning, Kira agreed, and somewhere in the darkness the Watchers were still searching, still hunting. But they weren't searching for a waitress and a diner owner working together. They weren't prepared for a single father willing to risk everything for what was right. They weren't ready for the fight that was coming. Jake Morrison's quiet life was definitely over. But maybe, just maybe, something even better was about to begin.